I found the presentations yesterday just great from at least two perspectives. One is that it was wonderful to hear from the team members who have been working on this. From Daniel's presentation on his commitment for public service and how the Greenest Region Corps has helped him fulfill part of his life goals, and how he's now in graduate school for environmental sustainability policies, through Brittany's presentation on how she developed specific toolkit materials and actually got into classrooms, and how energizing she found that. And it's like, I mean, that was wonderful. So we are giving great opportunities to people at critical time in their careers. And the second thing I found was just, from the perspective of the cities or, the county agencies, how much they really need these services, that the Greenest Region Corps is providing. That, these plans or goals of sustainability, even in a government agency that really embraces them, they believe in these goals, they're not self-executing. And critical parts of what has to be done to promote recycling, or to deal with solid waste, or to communicate plans in an effective way, to develop websites, to make these materials available to people who can actually take actions. All of these are being done because of the efforts of this heroic group of young people and the government agencies that are working with them. So that's what I got, and I'm looking forward to today's presentations, and that's as close as I can get to Kevin Burns.
Thank you so much, Warren. That was terrific. And I do wanted just call out the short history of the AmeriCorps. I'll also talk nuts and bolts a little bit. The Greenest Region Corps program really stems from the idea that Aaron Newman from US EPA had in observation of a successful program, which we've learned and studied from the Green Corps in Minnesota. So Aaron nudged me, and I'd ask Aaron to come up and say a few words, maybe introducing Eileen. Yeah, some applause there for Aaron's leadership on this, but nudged me to put in an application to the AmeriCorps program and design a program, as Mayor Ostenberg said, very much anchored in the Greenest Region Compact, and very much in service to the municipalities that are committed to the Greenest Region Compact and the Metropolitan Mayors Caucus. So I put in the application, but it was Erin's encouragement. She also then brought along colleagues from the US EPA and has created a swell of support. So I also want to thank Megan Gavin, who puts in enormous effort. But Erin, if I could ask you to just hop on camera for a minute, and then also introduce Eileen Fury, just to talk about the Corps for a minute.
Sure, thanks Edith. Yeah, I was really excited when this program came together. Helping people at the local level is sometimes hard at the federal level, and I just think this is a really great opportunity to do that. And so make more of us and make us in more places. I think it's fantastic. So, you know, we couldn't do it without Megan. She does a ton of work, especially on the hiring side, bringing on, I think, what has been a fabulous second-year Corps. And I wanted to ask Eileen Fury, who's my Associate Air Division Director, who's been a really huge supporter behind the scenes for this program for my time and other folks at EPA to get involved, maybe just to say hi real quick. So Eileen, are you there?
I'm here.
Hi, Eileen.
Hello, everybody. So I will keep this very quick, and I just want to reiterate what Aaron said. I'm only important because I control the money. And so when Aaron and Megan came to me and said, we think this would be a fabulous idea, it didn't take much, but I was happy to support it with whatever resources we had. And wow, has this money really paid off? So thank you, everybody, for your service to the environment and all the organizations that you've served for the past year. We know that accomplishing what you've managed to accomplish this year during a pandemic, I can't believe the amount of work that's gotten done virtually is just a stunning accomplishment that you should all be very, very proud of. I wasn't able to sit through all the presentations yesterday. I couldn't catch them this morning, but man, you've gotten a lot done. And it made me realize again how this is one of the best things that the Air and Radiation Division manages to do with our funds. And what I want to reiterate what the mayor said, what's so exciting about this program is that the results that you're achieving are both tangible, they're real results, they're measurable results, and they're visible to the people that you're serving. And then I think most importantly, you're all learning some really important career lessons that I think have taken me a long time to realize. I think you've all learned that working for an organization that has a mission, where you really believe in that mission, makes a career so much more wonderful. Like Erin and Megan and I all have been beneficiaries of that. To wear a white hat is really a fabulous thing. The other thing that I just saw throughout all the presentations yesterday is that you learn very quickly that you get more done when you build solid relationships of trust with people who you're trying to work through. That partnerships really matter, and partnerships are based on trust. And that's a really important career lesson to learn. And then the last thing that I was thinking about is that throughout all these presentations, I've seen you work with schools, with children. I think you start to realize so early on that children are the hope of the world. And the more that we can influence children, we influence their parents, we influence the people in their communities, and that's how we really bring about change. So thank you very much for everything that you do. It's really exciting to see it. And I am, again, looking really forward to these presentations today. And best of luck to everybody. Please keep in touch with us. We would love to hear from you as you go on in your careers. That's it from me.
Thank you so much, Eileen, and thank you so much for your ongoing support and enthusiasm for this program. It means a lot to us.
We love it.
Thank you. So I will just cover a little bit of the nuts and bolts of the program, particularly for any communities that are participating in the meeting today that might be thinking about hosting a Corps member. I do want to say that the Greenest Region Corps is really successful because in equal parts of the host organizations that provide superior opportunities and leadership and mentorship for the Corps and support for the Mayors Caucus and the Greenest Region Corps program overall. So I really want to thank the host organizations. For those communities that might be thinking about the AmeriCorps program. So the program, we're in our second cycle, and in November, I'll be putting in an application to the AmeriCorps program for another round. The program provides matching funds. So the AmeriCorps program provides matching funds that helps support the Corps and the program for its almost a year of service. And you'll hear more from Corps members today about that. But then the municipalities provide the other match. We do collaborative training and hiring with tremendous support from US EPA, and then they are actually assigned to your host organization. So municipalities and organizations that serve municipalities are the ones that are eligible to participate in the program. So that is upcoming, but again, really want to thank the host organizations. Hildy is on the line from Park Forest. Hildy, do you want to say a quick hello, and then we'll get into presentations?
Sure. Sorry. Hello, everybody. Yeah, this has been an amazing program to help us. We can only afford a part-time sustainability coordinator. So to have somebody here full-time to supplement Carrie's work, our sustainability coordinator, has been wonderful, and we've really enjoyed being a part of first Andrew and now Haley's lives. So thanks for making this possible, Edith and Erin and Megan and everybody else, and of course Mayor Ostenberg. He's the one who got us involved in sustainability in the first place, and I've just been doing so much learning in the last 10 years, so thank you for that.
Great, thank you, Hildy. And then one more introduction. You probably get lots of emails from her, but Katie Friedman served the city of Highland Park as an AmeriCorps Greenest Region Corps member in our first year of the program. And so she is now working with us, providing support and really mentoring to the Greenest Region Corps members. So Katie, just a quick hello, and then I think we'll get started with presentations.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Seed. I really can't say anything more than what has already been said, but it's really a privilege to work with this group every day, and I'll miss them when they graduate this month. So I hope you enjoy the presentations.
Thank you. And with that, if there are questions, please, we invite them in the chat, but we'd like to have time for every Corps member to present what they've learned and some work that they've done over the past term of service, which is winding down. It's about an 11-month commitment. It's based on the number of hours. So for our opening presentation, I would like to welcome Katya Obraz, who's the GRC Corps member for Lake County.
Hi. Okay, I'm gonna try. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so hello for everyone who doesn't know me. My name is Katya Obraz. I am the Greenest Region Corps member for Lake County, and today I'm going to be discussing two projects that I was able to assist the county with. The first being a solar permit analysis, and the second was a native tree and plant program research project. So to begin, one moment, I have to move. Okay, so I'm going to begin by discussing the solar permit analysis. This project was housed under a planning, building, and development department. So it was really great for me to begin this project because prior to, I was solely under the county administrator's office. So it allowed me to really see what other projects were happening within the county in terms of sustainability. So a little background on why I conducted a solar permit analysis was that Lake County received SolSmart Bronze in May of 2019. And then a couple months later, after making some solar zoning amendments, they were able to get SolSmart Silver, which is the current designation that they hold. So the county has been looking at ways that they can achieve SolSmart Gold. And they can achieve SolSmart Gold by having a 3 business day permit review turnaround time. And then in addition, this analysis was conducted in order to look at how we currently charge our solar permit fee and identifying if we standardized it, what benefits it would bring to residents, if any, and if it could possibly reduce barriers to solar. So my process of the solar permit analysis began by analyzing the county's current historical solar permit data from 2018, 2019, and 2020. I was really looking at the permit fees that were charged, the value of the solar projects, and the number of days that it took for the county to review each permit. From this data, I was able to look at the average permit fees and the average number of days it took to review a permit, as well as look at the range of these variables and identify if any were outliers that might skew the data. In addition, I was looking at any relationships between the variables that might inform my recommendations later on in my analysis. So after that, I conducted best practice research of solar permit fee schedules for municipalities in the greater Chicago region. This part of the process was really to inform the recommendations I would make on standardizing the solar permit fee or not. For this best practice research, I was able to gather solar permit fee schedules of 20 municipalities, both affiliated and non-affiliated with SolSmart. I found that 16 out of these 20 municipalities charged a standardized fee or some type of standardized fee for a solar permit. And then based on that data, I was using the models that municipalities were charging the residents for a solar permit fee and putting that in terms of how Lake County charges their solar permit fee and trying to understand what fiscal impacts the county might experience if they were to adopt a certain model, whether they would lose or gain money. So based on both the best practice research as well as the historical solar permit analysis I conducted, I was able to create recommendations. I sadly do not have the recommendations here right now for this presentation, but I'm going to our planning, building, and development leadership next week, and I'm going to present the recommendations that I have created. So hopefully it goes well. And on top of the standardization of the solar permit fee, as I mentioned earlier, I was also looking at the average number of days it took for Lake County to process a solar permit. This was for the county to achieve Still Smart Gold, as previously mentioned. In order to analyze the average number of days it took, I created a timesheet for our project manager, plan reviewer, and inspector to fill out for a 2-week time period. This timesheet really asked these individuals to write down how long they were spending on each solar permit, as well as the date they received it and the date they were able to pass it on to the next person in line. I just received those timesheets on Friday, so I'm still analyzing those, but then hopefully I'll have my analysis finished by next week when I talk with our leadership. And based on what those timesheets show, we'll hopefully be able to determine if a 3-day turnaround time is possible for the county, and if not, what barriers would prevent us from achieving that timeline. So in addition to the solar permit analysis, I also conducted a native tree and plant program research project for our Planning, Building, and Development Department. This project really stemmed from direction from our Energy and Environment Committee. They directed staff to look into various native tree and plant programs to see if any would be beneficial for the current county structure. Having a native plant and/or tree program is extremely beneficial because it increases biodiversity and also can assist with stormwater management. Just for reference, when I talk about a native plant and tree program for the rest of this presentation, I'm really talking about any type of recognition program or any type of co-pay program where a municipality will cover 50% or up to 50% or a certain amount of money for a native tree or plant. And the main goal of this research was just to evaluate existing native plant and tree programs operating within Lake County to see if there were any models that the county could use within, or that the county could have, and it would just be feasible within our structure to implement such a program. So a little bit of process behind this research. I conducted best practice research of native plant and tree programs offered by municipalities, very similar to the solar permit fee schedule research. But within this research, I was solely looking at municipality programs within the county. When I was looking at these programs, I was trying to identify the budget impacts of implementing such a program, how many residents were actually interested in the programs, what staff time was required for the program to run, and if there was any department affiliation for the program, whether it was stormwater management or public works. In addition, I was determining if there was any outside actors helping with the program. So my findings from this research was that 11 municipalities within Lake County offered their residents with the option for a native tree and plant program and/or incentives. But out of these 11 municipalities, only 7 of the programs were relevant to Lake County, since the county really services only unincorporated residents. 4 of the programs were planting native trees on parkways, and the county does not have parkways. So my analysis was really focusing on the 7 municipalities that provided programs for residents solely of planting trees or native plants in their yards. So I found that out of the 7 programs, 1 program provided residents with a free tree with a one-time grant through the Chicago Region Trees Initiative. 2 of the programs were a partnership with Open Lands through a program called Conservation at Home. This program is basically where an Open Lands or someone from Open Lands goes to a property, assesses it, and makes recommendations for the resident. And then based on those recommendations, if the resident decided to move forward with any of those, a municipality would decide to offer 50% or up to a certain amount in that resident implementing those recommendations. And then 3 out of the 7 programs were a 50-50 cost share replacement program. And then 1 municipality offered residents with an array of co-pay programs, everything from a native seeding program, invasive shrub removal, native tree and shrub planting, etc. So that municipality was definitely leading the others and really proving with great example how a co-pay program can run. So with these findings, I also wanted to look at those indicators I mentioned earlier. So in regards to the residential interest level of programs, that really varied municipality to municipality. I found that it was extremely dependent on how much advertising or communications that municipality put out about the program. In regards to department affiliation of the program, that also depended on municipalities. It really was affiliated with the size of the municipality. Bigger municipalities that were able to have maybe like a stormwater commission would have that program housed under it. But other municipalities that were a little bit smaller had the program housed under more just like administration. And all the programs really required limited staff time. They were really easy to implement. Not a lot of staff time was required for them. And then in regards to funding, most or all of the funding basically came from the municipality's budget, other than the grant from the Chicago Region Trees Initiative. But the funding was really dependent on how much the municipality wanted to put into the program. It really did not have to be a big investment. It could be anywhere from $2,500 to maybe $10,000. But I found that the program funds that the municipality, or the amount of money the municipality put into the program, usually changed yearly depending on how much residential interest level there was in the program. So if only 5,000 of the allocated 7,500 budget was used, then the following year the municipality would only put $5,000 to the program. So next steps on this research that I conducted is also to present to our Planning, Building, and Development Department stakeholders for input. As you can tell, we're really coming down to the end of the year, so all of our work is now being presented to our leadership. But I hope that once we're able to discuss with our Planning, Building, and Development team, we can eventually report findings to the Energy and Environment Committee at Lake County, and hopefully get next steps on implementation if we want to pursue a program or not. And then just in conclusion, I've had such a great experience with the Greenest Region Corps, especially with the supervision from Lake County. They've really provided me with a lot of professional development skills, and I've just had a really great experience. So thank you. Trying to get out of here now. I don't know how.
Excellent, Katya. Thank you so much. Terrific presentation. Do we have any questions from the group? Anybody? Questions for Katya? We're a small enough group. I think you can just turn your mics on and ask.
I have a question. Katya, what was the most challenging part about your research on these projects?
Well, definitely for the native tree and plant program, it was really difficult getting responses from municipalities, since I had specific questions that I wanted them to answer, especially in regards to how was administering the program, what was residential interest level. I was trying to contact most of these municipalities during the time of coronavirus. So getting responses was definitely difficult. You definitely want to be persistent, but not overbearing, and you know, you want to like find that level of what's appropriate and what's not with reaching out, trying to finish your project, but also respecting that this was a really difficult time.
Thanks. And then we had a question come in from the chat. I think you touched on it just now in your answer, but how did you gauge residential interest? Was that just through asking the municipalities?
Yeah, so that was really kind of difficult too. I'd basically just ask municipalities in a year, because most of these programs were renewed every year, especially regards to budget, how many residents were utilizing the program. And then usually they would be able to tell me like, oh, maybe 10 residents or 11 residents. But if they weren't really able to give me a specific answer, you can really kind of identify how many residents were using it by the budget allocated to the program. So if a municipality in 2018 allocated $5,000 to the program, but the next year only allocated $3,000 to the program, you can kind of infer that the residential interest level in the program wasn't that high. And then based on what a municipality capped as the most money they would spend on a copay program, whether that's 200, then if you divide like 2,500 by 200, you can kind of gauge a range of how many residents use the program within the year.
Thanks.
Perfect, thank you.
And just if you're not paying attention to the chat, the agenda, if you don't have it already, there's a link in the chat to the agenda. So you can follow along with who the speakers are.
Should I respond to Carrie really quick? Or what is the best way to reach residents about the program with higher results?
Sure.
Well, what I found with the program with the highest results was definitely it was the municipality that offered all of those programs, all of those copay programs that I mentioned earlier. So they definitely had the highest results, I think, because they were a smaller municipality as well versus a bigger municipality who has maybe a harder time reaching out to all the residents. But I think that's a good question. Maybe it's just like the quality of the program that you're providing residents. And I think a lot of it is a lot of the residents, if they have good, like if they talk with their neighbors about a good program that they utilize, I think that's able to spread the message and more people utilize it.
Thank you, Katya. And let's move on and invite Maya Dutta, who's been in service in the city of, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. It's Robin. Robin Grooms is up next. I saw Bee City and I just put Bees and Maya together. Robin.
Totally understand.
You'll understand that in a minute. So, okay, so Robin has been in service to Hawthorn Woods, which is also a charming Bee City, and has been really working to make this charming community even more wonderful. So Robin, if you would tell us about your experience in Village of Hawthorn Woods.
Great. Oh, should go to the beginning of my presentation. Okay, is everyone able to see that? I know sometimes Google Slides gets a little mixed up. Everyone seeing it okay? Awesome. Okay. So good morning, everybody. My name is Robin Grooms, and I am the GRC member for the Village of Hawthorn Woods. So the few things I'm going to be talking about today are working to get a Bee City USA designation, talking about the development of the village's sustainability plans, and then a few reflections on what my year has been like. So when I first heard about this designation, it was, I figured out that it was about habitat expansion for pollinators. I figured out that it was about an education process for a bunch of residents, and it was about continuing practices that would actually protect these populations. And as I was creating this presentation, I was informed that not everyone is as obsessed as I am about bees and flowers and things. So the reason that you actually want to protect these populations is that 1/3 of every bite of food that you eat is due in part to insect populations. Research has shown that globally that these populations are in decline, and in order to maintain the diversity of our local ecosystems, we want to be able to have these healthy pollinator populations. But personally, why I was really interested in this was that I knew that Hawthorn Woods had been involved in a bunch of these projects already. I knew that they were doing things like signage, habitat expansion, and pollinator gardens information for their residents. But also I had worked for multiple summers with the Forest Preserve District of Cook County, and I was very passionate about the physical aspect of restoring native ecosystems. Things like volunteer management, native plant sales, and invasive species removal were very much in my element. So I was very excited to bring this forward to staff members at the village. However, I received what I'd like to call a soft no, a maybe later. Go back, do some more research. Maybe this isn't quite the time. And the reasons that I was hearing for this response were things like resident misinformation. These are scary. Those are the things that fly around garbage cans and sting my kids. Would we have to have a whole bunch of additional ordinances? I don't want to have to overturn all of our village code in order to implement all of these things in order to get this designation. How much is this going to cost? Not only with money, but the amount of time. Would somebody like me be able to implement all of the necessary components to make something like this work? So I went and I did some more research, and I figured out that we really were doing everything that we needed to do in order to get this designation. We just weren't getting the credit for it. So some of the assets that we had in this community already that I was able to look into was that we were doing pollinator habitat expansion already, which is one of the core tenets of Bee City USA. We were creating a new arboretum. We were doing like native plantings in our nature preserves. Our public works facility was already working under this umbrella of an integrated pest management. And as well, we had a brand new sustainability committee that was in need of new responsibilities and new projects. So there was already a new team that was going to be ready to take on responsibilities like this. So my goal was to come back and double down on this insistence that no, this really is going to be something amazing for us. So I needed to learn what it was like to anticipate what information was necessary, how to counteract that information that I was given for that no or that maybe later, and be able to present the possibility for improvement as a slam dunk for the village. So when I was drafting a resolution for the village, I was able, I needed to figure out how to present this information in the best possible light. And luckily, this is something that was unanimously passed. Not one member of the board voted down on the resolution that I drafted. And we are the newest Bee City USA in the United States of America. And I gotta say, that felt pretty good to be able to say. So I highly recommend going and checking out this website and seeing if your municipalities would also be interested in something like this, because it really is a fantastic program. So moving on towards the village's sustainability plan. So why would the village be interested in having a sustainability plan? Well, I genuinely believe that Hawthorn Woods has the potential to become one of the most sustainable communities in Illinois. But to do something like that, you really do need a lot of extensive planning. Also, we are trying to look into getting an Audubon International Green Communities designation, and part of doing that is being able to draft a sustainability plan. So they had a whole bunch of resources and things for that. But then the third component was that they believed that they had somebody who they could trust. And something like that was when I was presented, hey, Robin, you're really going to be taking the lead on drafting a whole sustainability plan for the village. I had an interesting reaction. So I truly believe that someone can believe two things at one time, or two things can be true at one time, that you can be afraid to fail and you can believe in yourself, that you can be worried to take that next step, but that you also know that it's the right thing to do. So what were my resources going into this project? Obviously, Hawthorn Woods had signed on to the Greenest Region Compact, and that is a document that is designed to help municipalities make their own sustainability plans. I had Audubon International, which had fantastic resources about different topics and goals and different things to try. There was also a review process with the sustainability committee and a survey that we sent out to our residents. So I was able to get actual feedback from our community members to really make sure that this document wasn't only coming from me, it was coming from people who knew what they were doing and knew their community enough to be able to make sure that it was a living document that represented themselves. But also me, I trusted in my own insights about working in sustainability projects in this community for a year, made me think about what did I see as the potential for this region. And so here are a few examples of some strategies to to reach goals that I thought that I more or less came up with based on all of the other information that I was getting. So it was a fantastic opportunity to be able to come up with my own ideas and be able to implement this into a document. So the current timeline that we have going on for our sustainability plan is that a draft has been staff approved. It is now going through the review process within the sustainability committee, and hopefully all of those reviews will be able to come in by the beginning of September, and I will be able to implement those changes before it goes for a presentation for adoption with the Village Board of Trustees. And then hopefully if that gets adopted, or maybe some more work needs to be done, by the time that October comes around, I will actually be back in Hawthorn Woods again to help with the fanfare and the implementation of this 10-year plan. So I just announced so some reflections in general for this journey. I will be returning for one more year and stay with Hawthorn Woods and be able to build on the base of the work that I have put down so far. I hope to one day go get a Master's of Sustainability as a graduate program. But I believe that continuing on with this program is going to be one of the best ways for me to possibly spend my time in between my undergraduate and my graduate experience. I believe that this is the sort of program that really gives young sustainability professionals the opportunity to put all of their study and training into practice. And especially because it has to do all across Chicagoland, which has been my home my whole life. And it's given me such satisfaction to be able to do things and make my own backyard better off than I found it. And then also being able to, because I'm able to repeat this program, you know, I've been able to become more familiar with this area and have had some of these wonderful victories under my belt and be able to build off of that and maybe be more bold in the future, more bold than going against a no, who knows? But the other thing is I believe that this program really has a fantastic way of being incredibly supportive of these young people and being able to give them all sorts of resources and learning opportunities that wouldn't be available if it was just placing individuals at locations. It's the group, it's the core together that really makes the program so wonderful. So I highly recommend joining in or getting one of us in your in your homes. Okay, so with that, I will open everything up to questions. Thank you so much, guys.
Great energy and passion. Thank you, Robin. Very inspiring, and we're so glad to have you back for another round at the Corps, and you will be mentoring the next Corps as well. So thank you in advance for that. Any questions for Robin? Either turn on your mics or put something in the chat. Questions or comments?
So you had mentioned that you created a few points in the sustainability plan, such as aging, and can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so let me flip back to there. So a few of the points and strategies that I wanted to put input into the sustainability into this plan were things that I already knew were in the works, were being planned on, or things that were definitely possible. So something like the Greenest Region Compact or Audubon International isn't able to be focused enough for an individual community's needs. So they wouldn't know for certain if a municipality has something like an aquatic center or is involved in something like aging in place or has their own municipally owned nature preserve. So I wanted to be able to make sure that because I knew this community well enough that I was going to be making strategies that had to do specifically with assets that were within Hawthorn Woods specifically, and it wouldn't be able to be moved around or more generic.
Robin, could you explain the NS25OG? What does that mean?
Yeah, so that is just a labeling process. I just wanted to put up a few examples of strategies. All of those are different acronyms. So NS stands for natural systems. So this is under the environment portion of the plan. HS stands for health and safety. So that is under like the society portion of the plan. We wanted to be able to divide it into environment, economy, and society for the 3 pillars of sustainability.
Excellent. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay.
Any other questions? Great job. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you so much, everyone.
And then next up, very happy to introduce Leslie Hernandez, who has been the GRC Corps member in service to the Village of Oak Park.
Thank you, Edith. Hi, everyone. Let me just share my screen here. So as Edith introduced me, my name is Leslie Hernandez. I am the Greenest Regions Fellow for the Village of Oak Park. And I'm going to be briefing everyone on the work that I've done with Oak Park, for Oak Park. And so just to kind of briefly touch on it, Oak Park's interest in hosting a GRC Fellow was mostly to get assistance in data gathering and analysis to help them make data-driven decisions, which worked out for me because I really enjoy parsing through data. And more specifically, I think, you know, this whole presentation and, you know, my time with the GRC was important because, you know, especially in regards to sustainability, you can't effectively reduce what you don't measure. So if we're all aiming to reduce our impact, you know, our environmental impact, we need data in order to make strong decisions for that. So today, I'm really just going to be briefing you guys on 2 main projects. So I did energy benchmarking using EPA's Energy Star Portfolio Manager. I'll brief you guys on how to do that using their platform. And I also did a greenhouse gas inventory using ICLEI's ClearPath tool. So I'll brief you on both. So just for anyone that doesn't, you know, that isn't too familiar, what is energy benchmarking? It's the practice of comparing energy usage of a building, home, or facility with itself, or with buildings of similar sizes, uses, and areas. And you can also take this and apply it towards a greenhouse gas inventory, just replacing the energy usage with energy emissions. It also tracks the energy used via electricity, gas, water, and waste, which is also applicable for greenhouse gas inventory. The benefits of benchmarking: it empowers users to make more informed decisions, identify opportunities to save energy and money, and of course, reduce your environmental impact. So the Energy Star Portfolio Manager, I highly recommend this tool. And outside of sharing the work that I did, the whole purpose of this presentation is to hopefully inspire most of you, if not all, to take these programs back and suggest them to your own municipalities because they really are user-friendly and so helpful and beneficial. So the Energy Star Portfolio Manager is a free tool, again, developed by the EPA, and it allows one to track and assess energy and water use for one or an entire portfolio of buildings in a secure online environment. Specifically for Oak Park, I did it for their village facilities. So any municipally owned building that's owned by the village, I tracked their energy usage and compiled it into the Energy Star tool. And so it calculates the building's energy performance and allows to monitor over time, and you can compare either, you know, within 2 timeframes or compare to similar buildings. Another cool thing about Energy Star is that you can receive an Energy Star rating or certification if you are a qualifying building, which you can confirm on through the Energy Star website. Basically what you need is you need basic building information. So some of the more important building information would be total gross floor area, irrigated area, the occupancy percentage during operating hours and the number of like employees that are there during those hours. and like other applicable information that would be beneficial to assessing the efficiency of their building's energy usage. Once you have that information, you would just collect the whole building data. And so when you're collecting utility information, you want at least 12 months of consecutive consumption data. Otherwise, it's not as useful of a tool. You really want to make sure that it is consecutive. And for, you know, with my experience at Oak Park, there were a couple of, you know, months and bills missing. And so I just kind of reflected on, or I looked at a number of years to kind of estimate what that, you know, usage would be for those months that were missing. And then once you have that information, you've uploaded both building information and the energy data into Energy Star, you can translate that data into performance indicators. So the really cool thing is, you know, there are energy metrics where you can look at the total energy usage for that building. You can weather normalize the energy usage intensity. You can look at the financials and look at, you know, annual energy costs per square foot. Or what I did was I adjusted the main page to reflect greenhouse gas emissions for those buildings, since I was already going to be doing a greenhouse gas inventory for the entire community. And the biggest two things that I really love about both of these tools, both ClearPath and Energy Star, is the resources. If you're not familiar, you know, with how to do some of these applications, or you're just not tech savvy, there's a lot of educational material. Energy Star specifically has weekly webinars, there's training videos on YouTube, there's step-by-step tutorials. It was very beneficial, and, you know, it made it a lot easier to use. So for the greenhouse gas inventory that I did for Oak Park, just as a brief background, when you're doing a greenhouse gas inventory, typically it is community-wide, whereas, you know, when you're doing an energy benchmarking through the EPA's Energy Star, that's more for facilities. This is community-wide, and it's typically an annual report that quantifies emissions in using the basic emissions activities. So electricity, stationary fuel, on-road vehicles, etc. And when you're looking at the, when you're quantifying that into greenhouse gases, you can either do the use the 6 major greenhouse gases, or use there's 3 main ones, which is what the, you know, ICLEI requires at a basic level, as well as GCOM, which is what Oak Park was trying to work within. Benefits of an inventory, I think, you know, that's pretty basic. If your community is committed to reducing their carbon emissions, doing a greenhouse gas inventory is vital. And just as a little bit of a teaser, I do have a pie chart from Oak Park's CO2 equivalent from emissions from 2019. And as you can tell just from this chart, their biggest gas emissions come from commercial and residential energy. So this is where Energy Star would really be beneficial, because it would allow them to track their emissions, you know, a little bit finer, on a finer scale. So specifically using ClearPath, which is, again, the program I used, the ClearPath program, you know, having an ICLEI membership is really beneficial, because one, you can track you can submit your inventory through there and use their tool. But once you've created your inventory, you can develop, forecast, and analyze that inventory for future planning. What you need to get started for a greenhouse gas inventory: first, you need to determine your global warming potential for each greenhouse gas. And basically what a global warming potential, it allows you to report the multiple greenhouse gases. So if you're doing all 6, or whether you're just doing the 3 main, it converts it into a common unit, which is typically carbon dioxide equivalent. So it's calculated relative to CO2, and it's basically how long that particular gas stays in the atmosphere. And then for Oak Park's global warming potential, I use the IPCC report, which is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. their reporting, and I think I used the 5th edition. And then second, you'll want to obtain emissions factors. And an emission factor is just a coefficient which allows you to convert activity data like electricity usage into greenhouse gas emissions. So the basic calculation found below is just the activity data. So, you know, electricity or gas usage, the emission multiplied by the emissions factor, and then you would obtain the emissions estimate. Once you've, you know, received both of those, and so the emissions factor, by the way, you typically can get that from your utility, but if your utility hasn't provided it to you, there is state or national data that, you know, is reputable that you can use, and ICLEI like partners, they're really good and helpful about providing you those sources. Once you've done that, you can collect your activity data. And again, similar to Energy Star and doing an energy benchmarking, you would obtain electricity, stationary fuel, which is most commonly natural gas and propane, on-road vehicles, potable water, wastewater, and solid waste. And for electricity, stationary fuel, and solid waste, you'll want to make sure that you collect for residential, commercial, and industrial. And then once you've obtained all of that information, I make it sound a lot easier than it is. You can translate that data into performance indicators to forecast, monitor, track, and obtain reports using the ClearPath program. And again, I really appreciated having access to ClearPath because there is just an entire library of webinars via Vimeo. There's an 18-week technical assistance program, which I don't know that I would have been able to, you know, do an inventory as accurately if I didn't have that. And just the community and the staff that are available was just so beneficial. I highly recommend. Benefits and barriers to entry to both Energy Star and ClearPath. Or just doing, you know, an energy benchmarking and greenhouse gas inventory. It helps you make more informed decisions, allows you to identify opportunities to save energy and money, and of course, reduces your environmental impact. In my experience, the barriers were firstly working with utilities. It took a while to just, you know, communicate and get them to, you know, work with me a little. The cost, although Energy Star is free to use, there is a cost associated with becoming an ICLEI member and using ClearPath, although it depends on the population size of your community, and then staffing and time. My recommendations for overcoming these entry barriers, if you were to do these projects, is, you know, send your data requests early and follow up like crazy because they will forget about you if they can. The cost associated with an ICLEI membership, there are alternatives if your community does not want to invest in an ICLEI membership. EPA, for example, has their own greenhouse gas inventory tool that is also free to use. And then in regards to the staffing and time dedication, perfect example, get your community to host a GRCorps fellow who can do this for you. Questions or comments? Thank you guys so much.
Great job. Thank you, Leslie, so much for that. And just a shout out to Leslie, you probably, or some of you may know that the Mayors Caucus is also doing a regional climate plan, and Leslie has brought some of his talents and expertise to help us on the regional plan as well. So I borrowed her from Oak Park for a little bit. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Leslie? Okay. Thank you, Leslie, for that. Great work. And I would like then to ask Maya Dutta, now ask Maya, who's been working up in Waukegan to talk about her experiences with the city of Waukegan.
Thanks, Edith. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to figure out how to present. apologize for this brief. Oh, here we go. Okay, 1 minute. There we go. Can everyone see?
That worked.
Okay, thank you. So hi everybody, my name is Maya Dutta, and for my service year with the Greenest Region Corps, I serve the city of Waukegan, and I'm going to be talking about one of my main projects with them, which was developing their sustainability plan. So first off, I wanted to give a little bit more context about why the city of Waukegan was interested in participating in the GRC program. So they were mainly looking to gain capacity and technical knowledge from AmeriCorps in the field of sustainability to develop their sustainability plan, as well as build out a future for a more formalized sustainability program in the office. The Greenest Region Corps program was a great option for them to gain these skills and achieve these goals. So why did they want a sustainability plan? What would this do? Basically, in 2018, Waukegan City Council formally adopted the Greenest Region Compact, which many of you are familiar with. So they joined a network of over 120 local governments in Chicagoland, committed to a number of high-level sustainability goals to better the environment and quality of lives for the region. So after this occurred, the Waukegan saw it as the logical next step to develop a sustainability plan, because this would essentially help the city achieve these GRC goals by 1, acknowledging past and current sustainability initiatives, 2, prioritizing future initiatives, and 3, providing a roadmap for the city to be able to achieve these initiatives, as well as improve the environmental, social, and economic livelihoods for residents now and in the future. And as I have right here, the Greenest Region Compact hits on a number of different action areas, and goals are categorized under these action areas. And so the city of Waukegan wanted to do its part in the region and strengthen sustainability action in all of these areas. And basically the sustainability plan could help them accomplish all of that. So when I came into my year of service, kind of similar to Robin, I was tasked with this project specifically, and I was a little bit nervous. And so I had to kind of ask myself, how do I develop a sustainability plan in a matter of 11 months that's relevant and useful? So I ended up kind of breaking it down for myself in 3 broad categories after looking through a lot of different resources. So firstly, I knew that for me, this plan had to be framed by science, illustrating the effects of climate change on Waukegan. This isn't a climate action plan, so it was not going to be as in-depth as one of those, but I still thought it was really important to acknowledge the way the changing environment would influence how Waukegan should frame their initiatives. Secondly, clearly, this plan needed to consist of sustainability goals. So these were going to be, like I said before, high-level objectives that are comprehensive and equitable and achieve sustainability. So luckily for me, the Greenest Region Compact and the Greenest Region Compact framework provided a good set of options for goals and ways to implement these. And apart from that, I additionally read up on other sustainability plans from cities which were similar to Waukegan in terms of maybe demographics, size, assets, and other things to better understand ways I can incorporate certain goals into the plan. And finally, and perhaps the most important, was local relevance and its key, and how it was key to developing their sustainability plan. Meaning, so I wanted to address how goals could work in Waukegan and what they would affect and more. And so while I found this to be the most important, I definitely thought it was the one I was least equipped to address given my current knowledge at the start of my service year, because I didn't grow up in Waukegan. I didn't know a ton about it prior to my service year. So I definitely knew that this was going to take a lot of learning, and it might not be as simple as reading a lot of documents, but I was really excited to learn more about the community and definitely up for the challenge. So how did I learn about local relevance? I asked myself a few of these questions. So who works inside and outside of City Hall? Who makes up the community of the city of Waukegan? And what are the overall goals for the city of Waukegan? Those are just a few. But this initial question, who works inside and outside of City Hall, was not something I necessarily asked myself prior to the development of the sustainability plan, but it was definitely something that became increasingly relevant as I learned about how the city worked and how I met with various staff members. So a lot of how I learned the answer to this question stemmed from participating in a variety of different things related to the city, although these were not necessarily, upon first glance, related to sustainability. The city of Waukegan was really excited to bring me in and show me all these different things about how they operated. And so I was super excited to learn about how sustainability was then key in all of their everyday functions. So kind of this first question, who works inside and outside of City Hall? I spent basically the first half of my service term for part of the time getting acclimated to Waukegan through meeting with different city staff. So here are some of my favorite excursions that I went on. This one was my favorite. I wanted to explore North Beach. For those of you that aren't familiar, Waukegan has about a 2-mile long beach, and a lot of it is dunes area. And I really like going out and exploring. And so I brought Marcus and Thomas along, and we trudged through the dunes in November, and they wore their business clothes, and we had to walk through ankle deep, really, really cold water. But as I said, everyone in Waukegan was so excited, and they were just happy to be there. And so I did that. I went through and I got a tour of the parks by the park district. I got a tour of all the fire buildings in Waukegan, or fire stations. I also got a tour of the water plant in Waukegan, which was really interesting. So these tours weren't necessarily tailored to fit sustainability, but I had the background knowledge myself to understand what ways sustainability could fit into what I was learning about. And I also learned that while Waukegan didn't necessarily advertise sustainability as one of their main assets, it often was incorporated in a lot of their actions. For example, the water plant went through a number of efficiency updates in the past year, which is saving energy, water, and money. So it was things like these tours that got me really familiar with Waukegan. I additionally spent a lot of time in meetings and talking with department heads one-on-one about their projects and working with ways that they could see sustainability fitting into their everyday work. So then I asked myself, who makes up the community of Waukegan and one of their priorities? So I was able to do some research online. I talked to community members. I additionally talked to city staff who have been embedded in Waukegan for decades to get a better understanding for general community character. And then I also put out a sustainability survey, which was based off of the Greenest Region Compact goals to get priorities from community members, as well as general attitudes towards sustainability in the city. I was also lucky enough to be developing the sustainability plan alongside the development of Waukegan's comprehensive plan. So this allowed me to gather data from their community surveys and listening sessions. So I was able to understand not only sustainability perspectives, but also a wide perspective on a number of different topics just related to Waukegan. It was also really handy for me to read the comprehensive plan as I was formulating broad sustainability goals for the city, because I knew that the goals in my sustainability plan and the comprehensive plan should only work together, and they could never work against one another. And so the third question I had for myself was, what are the overall goals for the city of Waukegan? I was really able to look at the number of plans that they've developed through their planning and zoning department, so I got a better idea of where the city saw its place being in development and its goals for the future. I was also reading these documents to get a better idea of the language the city used and the narrative that they would often portray themselves in, such that when I created the sustainability plan, it would align in a narrative the same way that other documents came across. So these are just an example of some of the plans that they had. So then I was able to use the GRC framework to officially build out the city sustainability plan. This is just an example, not necessarily related to Waukegan, but I was able to look at different strategies that basically align with the strategies and goals that I had made in the plan. And I could see, okay, if it's already done, I'm going to use it to develop the narrative to illustrate the city's baseline. If it's not relevant, I'm just going to omit it from the plan. If it's in progress, I'm going to take note of that in a more explicit task keeping section. So it's really useful for me to be able to structure my plan and use this as a way to kind of guide myself through developing this plan. And so finally, kind of like I mentioned in the last slide, I also created an implementation and tracking matrix that is going to be at the end of the plan. And so it serves as a way to keep the city accountable, as well as keep track of their progress on commitments. So this is an excerpt from our plan right now, and you can see here's a goal, strategies, and so here they can say if they've achieved it, if there's progress. I was envisioning bullet points where they can list, short things that they've done, timeline, it can say short-term, long-term, department. I got to know the departments really well and some of their strengths. And so for people that are really interested in certain things, I was going to assign it to those departments. And then potential partners, so places that the city can work with in the region or locally, because oftentimes things get better done in partnership, for example, with MMC and the Greenest Region Corps. So finally, I kind of used these 3 ingredients to create the structure for my sustainability plan. It's listed here. And it was a lot of fun to kind of create this, not having a planning background before. It was definitely a challenge. But kind of as Robin says, it was okay to be a little bit nervous, but then know that it was, something that I was tasked with and it would be really exciting to do. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed working with the City of Waukegan and everyone in the Greenest Region Corps.
Great work, Maya. Any questions or comments for Maya?
Because you were the first person to focus on sustainability at Waukegan, what was it like working with the staff?
Yeah, I was actually really surprised because I was a little bit nervous. A lot of people that were working at this city had been working there for a really long time. I didn't know if they wouldn't want to incorporate, different things into their actions already, if it added more work or costed more money. But one, I had kind of figured out that a lot of what they were doing was sustainability. They just weren't categorizing as that. Or 2, they were all just really open to new ideas and kind of hearing what I had to say. Basically, everyone wanted to work with me in some capacity and were really excited about different projects. So it was really good. I was really happy about it. Should I read Robin's question?
I can read it, that's fine. Just thinking of my own development process, because we have such a small staff, a lot of some of the work for the projects was going to be went out to like committees and things. So I was wondering what your implementation process was going to be like, because I saw that you had a header for a department, but I was wondering if that was going to be expanded to other citizens and things like that.
Yeah, as of right now, we don't have any like an environment committee or sustainability committee with Waukegan. So right now we're envisioning it being allocated across departments, but I'm not sure what will come in the future necessarily related to that. But for now, it's just going to be assigned to departments. Thank you.
I have a question, Maya, but it's not about your presentation. Are there bees on your top?
Oh, no, they're not. They're just flowers. But
oh, I was thinking.
bees.
Maya's our pollinator princess. She's she's done a really good job in shaking up, getting everybody to focus on pollinators and bees. Maya, what would be the adoption process for the city for that plan? What's next?
Sure. So right now it's being reviewed by some people in the mayor's office and some people in the planning and zoning department. After that, it may go to the planning and zoning committee. And then ideally it's going to be adopted alongside the Waukegan comprehensive plan by city council. So that's supposed to happen in tandem. They're supposed to work together in that sense.
Excellent, thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay, and thanks for showing how the GRC framework worked. Glad to see that be useful. And thank you for your presentation. Let's finish up with a presentation from Haley Krim, who's been in service at the Village of Park Forest. And Park Forest is of course a leader in sustainability and has been enthusiastic partners since the beginning of the Greenest Region Corps. So, Haley.
All right, thank you. I'm just figuring out how to share my screen. And I apologize, I don't have a camera. I'm on my work computer and it doesn't have a camera. But can everybody see my screen? Awesome.
Yes.
And let me know if the slides aren't advancing, so that's a problem before. So as Edith said, I'm Haley Krim. I'm the Greenest Region Corps member for Park Forest. And on the agenda, it said renewable energy, but I'm going to talk specifically about one project that I've been working on, which is a solar installation at the Park Forest water plant. So our interest in renewables, like a lot of people have talked about so far, is backed by both the Greenest Region Compact and Park Forest Climate Action and Resilience Plan, or which we call the CARP, which was developed with the help of last year's Greenest Region Corps member, Andrew Brown. So specifically, we're interested in meeting GRC goal E12, which is to install and operate renewable energy systems at municipal facilities. And we're also interested in meeting our own CARP goals of converting village-owned buildings to renewables and reducing our community-wide greenhouse gas emissions by 26% by 2025. Just before we keep going, there's a lot of jargon associated with solar and renewable energy, so I wanted to make sure we're all on the same page. So renewable energy credits, or RECs, are certificates of purchase of 1 megawatt of renewable energy. And they're generated anytime any sort of renewable generator makes a megawatt of energy, and then the owner of that renewable power generator can sell their RECs to someone, and the person they sell the RECs to, whoever ends up owning the RECs, has the rights to say that they're using that renewable energy. So you can generate it and sell your RECs, but then you can't say that you're using your renewable energy. So that's really important to consider in a municipal renewable development. The second thing is franchise agreements, which are agreements between ComEd and your municipality, where residents only pay for municipal electricity use from buildings that generate profit. So things like Village Hall or the library maybe will be on your franchise agreement. So residents will pay for that electricity through their electricity bill, and it's not included in their taxes. So that's an important thing, and that affects where it's financially feasible to do renewables in a municipal setting. And then the last thing is the Adjustable Block Grant Program, which is a financing mechanism in Illinois where solar array owners can sell their RECs to the state for a set price. And the state will buy 25 years of your RECs and pay you back over the first 5 years. So it's a way to make installing large renewable projects more affordable. So what's going on in Park Forest? So we actually process and distribute our own drinking water. So our water plant is the largest municipal electricity consumer, and it's not covered by a franchise agreement because it produces a profit when residents pay their water bills. So therefore, the village has to pay for this electricity, which is passed on to residents in their taxes. So this, and the huge amount of open space near the plant, makes the water plant an ideal place for our first solar installation. So we went out and solicited some proposals. Our proposal process was pretty open-ended, so in order to see what was even possible at this site, we didn't specify the type of financing mechanism or a size requirement or even really where the panels were supposed to go. So we got a really wide range of proposals. We really specifically looked for local proven companies, and we requested quotes through 2 ways. So one is through Energy Stage, which you can see a screenshot of right there, which is a website specifically for finding and requesting bids from solar installers. And then we also reached out to companies ourselves that we were interested in just their own research. So we received 3 competitive bids that covered a wide range of costs and amount of power produced and different financing mechanisms. And we ended up going with the one that was kind of in the middle because it offered the best return on investment and the most opportunity to expand in the future. So you can see this picture is what we were quoted from the proposal that we're moving forward with. So it is composed of 1,239 solar panels, and they're on the ground to the west of the water plant and also on the roof of the plant itself. And these panels would produce roughly 46% of the plant's annual electricity use, which is pretty huge because that reduces our electric bill by 46%, which would save us around $57,000 per year over the lifetime of the panels, so up to 40, maybe 50 years. So the power produced by the panels would also avoid 460 metric tons of emissions per year, which is the equivalent of planting 218 acres of trees, which is 10% of Park Forest land area, so obviously we can't do that. Installing solar at the water plant would also reduce our total municipal emissions from electricity use by 30%, which is a huge step towards meeting our CARP goals. Some other things that caught our eye about this proposal and that made us choose it were the efficient use of space and having the panels on the ground and also on the roof. They had a focus on using US-made and extremely highly efficient equipment, and also they offered us the flexibility to either lease or purchase the panels outright. So this is what everyone, I bet, is waiting for. How are we going to pay for it? So we did look at power purchase agreements, which are effectively leases on the panels, but outright purchase makes the most sense, at least for us. So we were quoted $660,500 for the whole array, including installation and preparation and everything that needs to go on beforehand. But after incentives from ComEd and Collective Sun, we were able to reduce the cost by around $200,000. And then if we do choose to sell our RECs through the Adjustable Block Grant Program, we could make $370,000 over 5 years, which would make our net price 5 years after installation just $79,000. So it really is affordable and it makes sense for us, especially because including the money that we'll save from having the electricity generated by the panels, our investment would pay itself back in 4 years. And after that, we would just have free electricity for the rest of the life of the panels. If we choose not to sell our RECs, to keep them and say we're using the renewable energy, which gets towards our CARP goals, our payback period would only extend to 8 years. So it really makes sense either way. So there are some things, this project is still in development, so we haven't actually broken ground yet. And there are some interesting pressures both to hold off and wait for a while and also to start as soon as possible. So, and these apply to any kind of solar project, including rooftop, if your residents are interested in that. So first, well, the village isn't spending any money on capital projects this year because of COVID, so that obviously puts a hold on things for a while. Another pressure to wait is that the Adjustable Block Grant Program has actually run out of money for commercial solar installations, which are the larger ones as the category that this would fit in. So they're no longer paying that $370,000, which is unfortunate. But this could be fixed if they can open a new block with the passage of several bills that are currently at the State House. So waiting to see how those end up would be advantageous. And then there are also potential federal policy changes that could affect the financing in the future as well. So the pressures to go are that the federal tax incentive was 30%, is now 26%. Next year will be 22%, and then we'll just be completely gone, which raises the price of the array pretty substantially. Also, obviously, the climate can't wait. We need to reduce our emissions as soon as possible. So that is another pressure to go and start installing. So the sweet spot, I think, balancing both of these is probably late next year or early 2022, but that, of course, depends on a whole bunch of other stuff happening. So that's just something to be aware of. So where are we going now? Before I leave, I will be giving a presentation to the relevant village staff from Public Works and the water plant, just to update them basically what I just told you. As soon as possible, we are probably going to join the block grant wait list So when the next block opens up, we are first or early in line for that funding. Also, if that doesn't happen, we need to explore other financing options, including solar for all, which we qualify for as a low-income community. And then at some point, we'll install them and get this whole project going. So just some key takeaways that we've learned is that residents are really excited about this. And people are kind of waiting for an example, at least in this area, of some time it went right and a story that you can tell of how it worked and how you paid for it. So we're hoping to catalyze some solar development in the Southland. We also obviously found out that solar is totally accessible for municipalities. We didn't go into it knowing that it would work out financially the way that it did. So that was really exciting. Policy has a huge effect on the price of the panels and the feasibility. So that's an important thing that we learned. And also, solar has a really steep learning curve. I've spent my whole year working on this, and I'm just starting to feel comfortable talking about it. So municipalities should share what they've learned, and we should be able to help each other and figure out how to do this together. So in that spirit, if anyone has any questions, you can ask me now. I've also put my personal email on there, and I've also put Carrie's email in case you have questions about the Park Forest project specifically, and then our office phone number and our website. Thank you.
Excellent. And did you see me thumbs up the steep learning curve for solar? So I think you've surpassed my knowledge of solar. Any questions for Haley on that presentation?
Yeah, just a quick one. Did you consider, or did the city consider minority hiring targets or disadvantaged people who would be working with the contractors when you were developing an RFP and reviewing proposals?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for this project, we didn't make that a requirement because we actually were just kind of throwing it out there so that anyone could apply. But some of our other solar projects, we have one to install small solar on some of our smaller buildings or less energy intensive buildings. And that does come with a workforce development opportunity. Actually, 2 offices down from us right here is OAI, and I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but they have a huge Southland solar training program that we're going to work with for that. And that's through Reggie Greenwood with the Chicago Southland Tech Incubator, if you want to know more about that. But in the future, we definitely are interested in workforce development.
Other questions or comments?
Really, I have more of a comment, but I just wanted to say, I think trying to find places to do solar in Illinois because of the franchise agreement is always a challenge. And so if there's a way to sort of share those types of places you found in Park Forest with other municipalities before you go, I think that would be fantastic. I don't know how many other municipalities have their own water treatment plant that would be sort of this opportunity, but I think that's a great thing to share with other sites. So thank you. Good, great presentation. They were all great today.
Yeah, that's a great point. I will have to figure that out because we're also looking at our performing arts center. We have a theater that we are looking at for solar, and I believe schools can also do it, or at least in Park Forest because they're not municipally run. But yeah, I'll put a list together for that.
Haley, I have one other question. You have so Park Forest has a climate action plan and presumably renewable energy goals. And if you sell the RECs from the water treatment, you can't count the renewable energy that you're generating there. Those credits will go to someone else. So how have you had that discussion? Yeah. How does that get?
Yeah, that's been a huge consideration for us, especially on this. So we have actually done a municipal electric aggregation. So we're buying RECs to cover, I think, 60% of our residential and commercial energy use. So we're sort of covering, we're trying to buy RECs on the side. If we have to sell RECs for this project, we will, because I think the financial it just makes more sense financially. But I guess we have to remember that just the more solar that is on the grid, the better our emissions factors and the better our grid electricity mix. So that does kind of come out in your greenhouse gas emissions inventory at a more diluted scale, but it helps everyone. So I don't know, I go back and forth. Yeah, on how we want to count it.
Thank you, Haley. We are at time here, but we ran short on time for questions yesterday. Does anybody have any questions for yesterday's panel that that you didn't get a chance to ask, or any questions for any of the other panelists today? So what I thought might be fun, and we had a little time to do some shout outs for the Corps. As you can see, why we're enormously proud of the work that the Corps has done. But if I could ask all Corps members in the chat to please just tell us what your next steps are. So even if you told us all before, let's just have a parade of where you're going next. And I'd probably ask Katie, who is a former Corps member, just to talk about where you'll be in the coming year and the work you're doing. So that would be a nice bow on the way out. So tell us what's up next for you.
For me?
For everybody, I guess. I was just going to say, put
Okay.
it in the chat for everyone.
Oh, sure.
For all of our Corps members who are leaving the program. Some of you are already on to new things, and then Katie, I was just including you just because you're.
Thanks. I'll type it in the chat.
Yeah, thanks. So that looks like that's most everybody. Corps members, if you haven't, please just populate that. So just wanting to wrap up and say that we've got some Corps members who are staying on with helping municipalities. We've got some Corps members going on to new adventures. We've got some Corps members who are available for to apply these skills and for employment. So I just want to again thank all of the Corps members for your extraordinary work over the course of the year. And then also thank the host communities for providing these amazing opportunities, and to our supporters of the Greenest Region Corps, and that's Warren, Levy, and the US EPA, and the Environment Committee. So thank you all for being here and for your interest in presentations.
Great job, everyone, yesterday and today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.